Today, we are ranking all 8 Mission Impossible films. Let's get right into it. So first of all, coming in at number 8, as the worst of the franchise, you guys probably know what I'm gonna say. It's Mission Impossible number 2. This movie is just absolutely bonkers. It's crazy to me the tonal changes that this film has from the first film, directed by John Woo. It basically follows Ethan Hunt as he somehow ends up in Australia chasing after this ex-IMF agent who's trying to get his hands on this deadly disease in order to release it. As an Australian, I can't believe that I haven't heard anyone talk about this movie or the fact that it is shot in Sydney. But look, just between you and me, Melbourne is a far superior city. Maybe it's spoken about in hushed tones because of the critical reception that this film got, or also maybe it's the fact that one of our own, Richard Roxburgh, was asked to put on this horrible South African accent.
Freddy's got no choice. I believe I broke his jaw.
And look, maybe this film being set in Australia does get overshadowed as well by the fact that they filmed The Matrix in Sydney as well, just the year before. And this new character, Naya, who's just completely over-sexualized throughout the whole movie. It's also bonkers that Anthony Hopkins appears here for this strange kind of cameo where he's basically trying to convince Ethan to get this woman that he's just recently slept with to then go and get back with her ex. And he calls that Mission Impossible.
To go to bed with a man at night time, she's a woman. She's got all the training she needs.
They also go way over the top with the masks in this movie. Like, they're whipping them out like one every 5 seconds in this film. It is just so over the top and completely takes you out of it. But overall, on reflection, I was laughing a lot throughout this, so maybe it isn't as bad as I'm sort of describing it now. And coming in at number 7, we have Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. This is a part 1 of 2, basically about all these people trying to get control of this key that unlocks this place where this artificial intelligence entity is that's apparently so powerful, and all these different governments and people want to take control of, and Ethan's trying to get it away from all of them and save the world, as he always does. And major spoiler warning here, guys, but the choice to kill off Ilsa here is terrible. She's one of the best characters in this franchise. I just can't believe that they did that. It's so frustrating. And Hayley Atwell, normally I like her in the Marvel films, but her character is just so annoying here. It's like, why didn't you just keep Ilsa? And yeah, for the most part, this whole thing just feels forgettable. Gabriel as the main villain, for lack of a better term, he just has no aura. And the whole idea of incorporating artificial intelligence as a global threat, it just feels a little bit janky and a little bit distant from how we understand the technology today. And given that this was made 2 years ago, the technology's already changed so much since then, and so it just feels a little bit outdated. And this is probably a really controversial hot take, but I kind of wish that they went a Kingdom of the Crystal Skull route with this franchise instead and had Ethan Hunt take on aliens instead of AI, but I feel like no one's going to agree with me on that. The whole final act set in Innsbruck on the train in Austria, that is kind of cool, and it definitely saves this from being a bad film for me. I've got a bit of nostalgia because I've actually been to that place myself and caught trains around there. And the final set piece that they have with these train carriages falling off a bridge, that did a really good job of building a sense of height and danger and scale. So I've got to give the movie credit for that. And coming in at number 6, we have the 2025 finale to the franchise, Dead Reckoning. Now, this is by no means a horrible film. It serves as a reasonably satisfying conclusion to the entire franchise, as well as a conclusion to the previous film I just spoke about. But again, it does feel really sort of gratuitous at times. The pacing is sluggish. The first 40 minutes are just full of so much exposition. There is just one too many flashbacks in this film. They're constantly showing scenes from the previous movies, and I understand that perhaps it doesn't hit as hard for me because I watched this entire franchise within the space of a week. So for your average person going to the movie, they're going, hey, I'm seeing scenes I saw 30 years ago. For me, it's like I saw this for the first time last Tuesday, so it doesn't quite hit. Unfortunately, it does continue on some of the problems from the previous film. The AI doesn't feel quite realized as a global threat. Hayley Atwell is, again, her character's just so annoying and just doesn't compare to Ilsa. Briggs and Dagus as an antagonistic force just feels superfluous. Gabriel as a villain still doesn't have any aura. Once you get past the first 40 minutes, this movie does start cooking. The whole underwater submarine dive, that part is really cool. It's got a bunch of sort of cosmic horror elements. I'm not quite sure how the physics works with going so deep under the ocean, but hey, it's cool. And I know for a fact that Tom Cruise was probably swimming around in that freezing cold water. I don't know how he does it at this age. And I've got to say, that final action set piece where Tom Cruise is riding on the side of this tiny little small plane, that is brilliant. There are a bunch of shots there that genuinely blew my mind in the cinema, and I went, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. It still definitely has that wow factor with some of the stunts that Tom Cruise is doing here, so you've got to give the movie credit for that. There's definitely too many characters here to balance, especially the fact that they included that Paris character from the last movie, and it really frustrates me that she survived because they did this whole kind of, yeah, she died moment in the previous film and then she's just back here. It's sort of like nothing happened. So that's frustrating. But yeah, overall, this could have been a lot worse. Coming in at number 5, we have Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. This is the 4th film in the franchise. As an 11-year-old kid, this was one of the first M-rated films that I was allowed to go and see in cinemas, and it completely blew my mind. I thought it was one of the coolest things that I had ever seen. So on rewatch, I think I did have some very high expectations, which I don't think this film met. I don't think it's a bad movie, but look, I'll be honest, the whole villain, I really don't remember that much about that guy at all. He's another one of those guys that I think wants to destroy the world with nuclear weapons, something like that. Everyone will remember this movie for the scene where it has Tom Cruise climbing up the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, which, to be fair, is a pretty impressive stunt. It's also got that classic meme of Tom Cruise changing costume. That is a good moment as well. The whole opening in Russia where you've got Ethan Hunt breaking out of prison, and then when they break into the Kremlin, it's a very creative and fun sequence. But man, for a lot of this movie, I was just completely shocked at how they described what happened to Ethan's wife, because at the end of Mission Impossible 3, he's riding off into the sunset with her, and in this one, in the first half hour, we're hearing about how she got dismembered, and I'm sitting there like, are you serious? The last movie, the ending made me so happy, and we're hearing this horrible thing. It sort of annoyed me because I hate it when movies, sequels, they retcon the ending of the previous one, so it took me a while to get over that. But potentially revisiting this in future, once I know how they deal with that at the end of this film, maybe I'll be able to enjoy it a bit more. Coming in at number 4, we have Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. This film is the 5th in the franchise. It's a pretty good movie, although I've got to say Sean Harris just looks so bizarre without a beard. Of course, it's got that amazing opening sequence where you have Tom Cruise literally holding on to the outside of a plane as it's taking off. It's one of the most visually impressive stunts in the whole franchise. Some of the rest of the stunts here, they feel a little bit CGI assisted, but when you've got that at the start of your movie, you can use all the CGI you want later as far as I'm concerned. The underwater scene that they have here is pretty cool, as well as the action scene at the theater. Although I couldn't quite take that whole opera stuff seriously because they used the same song that here in Australia they used for a Carlton Draft beer campaign. So I was sort of laughing at a few scenes that I was meant to, I think, take a bit more seriously. Ilsa, of course, she's a great character and she's awesome in this movie. I do feel like this movie blurs into the others a little bit, but it sets up the next one, which I think is a great film. Coming in at number 3, we have the movie that started it all, Mission Impossible. It's got your classic plot line with Ethan's whole team getting killed at the start of the film. It's brutal. I love how brutal they were prepared to be with that. I was not expecting that going into this blind. I do kind of wish though that they went with the idea of killing off the TV cast at the start of this film. That would have been even crazier. Tom Cruise looking so young here. He's just got that charisma, that youth, that smile. You can't help but falling for it. I can't believe though how much John Voight, I kind of don't know how to pronounce his name, but I can't believe how much he has aged between Deliverance in 1972 compared to this movie in 1996. But hey, he's still a great on-screen presence. It also kind of feels like this is a multiverse team-up movie with Marcellus Wallace from Pulp Fiction and also Leon the Professional playing a big role in this movie. I was sort of going, when I saw them come on screen. I love that. That helicopter ending sequence is just absolutely crazy. Look, I'm not sure the physics quite hold up there, but it gave me a lot of solid laughs. And of course, you know, you've got to give this movie credit for starting the whole franchise. The classic scene where he goes down into the control room. That's a classic for a reason. I think maybe I wasn't as blown away here with the stunts as I expected to be, given how you always hear people going on about how amazing the stunts are in these movies. But for a little 1990s time capsule, I think it's a pretty good film, and one that, especially after watching through the entire franchise, will be enjoyable to go back and revisit one day. Coming in at number 2, we have Mission Impossible 3, directed by the one and only J.J. Abrams, who's kind of ruined his reputation with Rise of Skywalker.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
We're not going to talk about that. I love this movie because it feels like it actually has a real beating heart. I felt a lot of emotion watching this. I love how it goes in a different direction with having Ethan Hunt stepping away from the IMF. This time he's got a wife, he's kind of retired, and then reluctantly he kind of gets pulled back into the world of the IMF. We've got Philip Seymour Hoffman as the villain, and he is ice cold. He really feels dangerous and quite brutal as a villain. It's got this non-linear storytelling decision which feels very J.J. Abrams, which I actually do think works really well here. It's got a nice kind of grainy, you know, mid-2000s, 2009 cinematic look about it that just gives me a bunch of nostalgia for when I was 10 years old. And look, maybe I'm biased, but I think cinema peaked back around this kind of time. And yes, again, maybe it's got those moments that are a bit hard to believe. For example, once again, Ethan getting killed and then revived. But I think it works a lot better in this movie because his wife is actually a nurse, so you can kind of believe her giving him CPR actually works. I also love in this movie how they address some of my criticisms from the previous 2 films with actually showing how they make the masks. That was a really cool addition. I feel like a lot of the stunts here maybe aren't as memorable as the rest of the franchise, but you know, you've also got Lawrence Fishburne here. He's great in his role. You've also got the introduction of Simon Pegg, which again makes this movie really rewarding to go back and watch. But overall, look, I just felt so happy at the end of this movie, seeing Ethan ride off into the sunset on his honeymoon with his wife. It made me feel really warm inside. So look, this is one of my favorites, a great Mission Impossible film. And coming in at number 1, they shouldn't have made any movies after this because you cannot get better than this. We have Mission Impossible Fallout. It kind of serves as a follow-up to Rogue Nation. You've got Sean Harris, once again, the sort of fanatical leader of this nuclear cult, breaking back out of prison, trying to take revenge on Ethan, which includes blowing his wife up in a nuclear explosion. You've got people trying to defuse nuclear bombs. The stakes feel so high. You have Henry Cavill in here as well, sort of bouncing off Tom Cruise. They have such a good dynamic. It feels like it just goes from action set piece to action set piece. It's got one of the best stunts in the whole franchise franchise, in my opinion, when you have the skydive over France. The soundtrack slaps so hard. That scene where you think that Ethan has gone and massacred all these innocent policemen, it actually has some really heavy themes to think about. That whole thing they explore in Star Trek as well, with the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one, or vice versa. It feels like it brings together all the elements of the previous films really well. They use Ethan's former wife in such an engaging way, as well as Sean Harris's return as the villain. It's got a perfect sense of humor as well. It made me genuinely laugh. That opening scene as well is so clever. Frick me, I just love this movie so much, and just talking about it, it makes me want to go and watch it again. I think it's genuinely leagues above the rest of these movies. It's so freaking good. I want to go and watch it again. Sorry guys, I'm getting too excited, but it is such a good movie. So overall guys, that is my ranking for all 8 Mission Impossible films. Tell me what you think in the comments. Did I get it right, or am I a complete spud? Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing or dropping a like. It really means a lot to me. I had a lot of late nights staying up trying to watch all of these Mission Impossible films, but I've got to say, I'm really glad I did. And look, I've got to say, Tom Cruise as well, he won me over with this. I know that people say he's got that strange Scientology stuff going on, but you can't deny he's a true blue action movie superstar. He's so entertaining to watch on screen. I had a great time watching these movies. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.